Okay, so last but not least, we'll take a look at the Brownie band recovery model. So this is the one you often use for hunting kind of data. Band a bunch of ducks and look at how many are recovered during the hunting season. So we go into File New, and in case that was quick, I clicked on Dead Recoveries. Dead Recoveries Brownie is the option we want to use, and then click to select file. This is this brown ADT file. This is mallards down in the San Luis Valley. Oops, I got my cap locks on. So let's take a look at it here. And very different setup for the data here, right? We've got like a matrix that shows these are the ducks that were shot by hunters and their bands were turned in over time to, at that time, the Fish and Wildlife Service. And then this last row here is just the number of ducks that were banded down there in the San Luis Valley each year of the study. And this is data from 1963 to 1971. So they banded 231 mallards the first year, 649, and so on, all the way up through 71. And then these are the recoveries in each year. So again, 63, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 71. Okay. And same thing, of course, for the second year. You can't recover a bird until it's banded that second year. So you're going to have one fewer column, if you will, in each one of these rows as you go down. Okay. So those are the data. We banded a bunch of birds. A number of birds were harvested and their bands were turned in. So we want to use that to estimate survival. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's 9 years. So we want to put this up to 9. We just have one attribute group. They probably identified males and females, but we're just going to put them all together here and analyze it. Okay. Click OK. We pull it up. As usual, we look at our matrices. So we have two matrices here. Window tile, thank you. And on the right, we have our survival probabilities, and we have them set up 1 through 8, where 1 is survival from through that first interval, 2 is survival through the second, and so on, all the way up until the last interval. Notice we had 9 years, but we only have 8 intervals because you can only have a survival between intervals. And then we have our recovery probabilities. And here we do have 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that is, you do have a recovery rate each year. You know how many you banded, you know how many you recovered. So you can calculate that for each year. Okay. So we could just go ahead and run this if we want. Probably not going to have a lot of data, but we'll just call this ST and F for our recovery rate, T. Hit OK to run. Ask, do we want to append this? And we'll say yeah. Okay. 17 parameters. If we look at this, they're probably going to be all, oh, they're actually pretty stable. So, we get survival varying from about 58% up to 84% one year, down to 56%. So, fair amount of year-to-year variation. And then secondly, for our recovery probability. It's low that first year, only 4%, then it jumps up to 9, down to 6, 7, so it bounces around a little bit. Notice that these recovery rates are pretty low, right? I mean, this is, out of those 230 or so birds that were released, how many were actually recovered by the hunters? Remember, this is shot by the hunters, retrieved by the hunters. Once they get them, they find, aha, there's a band on it, and they actually send the band into Fish and Wildlife Service. So that one probability represents a lot of steps. And you find that sometimes on these sort of studies, maybe you have a little bit higher hunter education program. That second year you realize, oh, we didn't get many, so let's go and try to talk to all the hunters and tell them, we got banded birds out there. If you get one, send it to us so we can do our study. So, you can have variation due to a lot of factors that might affect your recovery rate. And then here, really, it's just like any of the other models. You would maybe want to ask, is survival constant across years? So I could just click on this rectangle, right click and say constant, renumber with overlap, and run that. So that's s.ft. And if we run that, let's append it, and that goes way up. Well, not way up. 2.6 units above, 78% weight versus the other model, so, not that different. Maybe we could try flipping this around the other way and say maybe survival varies from year to year and recovery rate doesn't. So we can, let's grab this one. Yeah. So now we'll have survival vary. We'll go up to this upper rectangle, which is the recovery rates. Right click, hit constant. So boom, we're right there. We just want to run the current model. So we're having survival vary by time. F is constant. We can run that one. Say yes. And okay, this one it's given us a little bit of a warning. Let's take a look and see what might be going on. I don't see anything real strange. We have our 8 estimates of survival, again varying a fair amount, and then one estimate of recovery rate, 7%. But that one really drops very low. So our best model out of these is assuming that we have constant annual survival and year-to-year variation in recovery rate. This is the kind of information the agencies use to set harvest and bag limits and so on for ducks all across North America. So important kind of data to at least be familiar with. We're not going to have you do any band recovery analyses for your homework, so this is just purely for your edification. All right, that's all, folks.